Hello friends, welcome back to TechnoGeek SFDC. So in this video, we will be talking about custom permissions in Salesforce. So what custom permissions are, okay? So basically custom permissions are used to define a check basically that let's say there are certain process, okay, which you want to bypass for some users or which you want only to run for a certain users, you can put a check on the users by using the custom permission so that you can efficiently know that yes, these are the valid users or these are the invalid users to run this process or basically to be part of this process. So let's take a small example of how what custom permissions are so that it will be more clear to you. Okay, so let's say you have a validation rule. Okay, on account you're creating a validation rule, but you want to bypass this validation rule for let's say lot of profiles. So usually in large enterprises you have lot of profiles or permission sets in your system. Okay, it can be 50, 60, depends on the business scenarios. Now, let's say there are certain validation rules which you want to bypass for, let's say, around 10 profiles. Okay. In the present scenario, you want to bypass it for 10 profiles. Okay. How to do that? Either you specify one by one all the profile name, but again, it will more complicate your, uh, you can say more complicate your uh, validation rule. And then let's say tomorrow, if you need to add some more profile to bypass, it will again increase your validation rule length, as well as you need to do the deployments and all that stuff on that. But if I say that you can do it without involving the profile name into that, so how to do that? In that scenarios, custom permission comes into picture. Okay, so custom permissions are basically a feature of Salesforce where you can define certain permission and assign it to a profile. Okay, so that let's say if any user is running the system, or let's say user A is there who is present in the system, who is having profile A. Okay, then once you run the check for the custom permission in your validation rule, it will check that whether the user who is logged in into the system is having this particular custom permission or not. Okay, and then based on that you can do the processing. So let's take a scenario here. Okay, so for example, let's say I want to bypass a validation rule. Okay, for let's say I have multiple profiles in my system, around 55 profiles I have. Okay, now for this we will first create a custom permission. Okay, so you can come to quick find and you can select for a custom permission. Here you can create a custom permission. Let's say I can just give a name called demo per, or I'll give a valid name, bypass validation. Okay, and then I can simply click on save. Okay, now what our next step will be is, next step is we will go to profiles. Okay, or all the profiles for whom we want to bypass this particular validation rule. Okay, or let's take it one step back. Okay, so first what we'll do, we'll create a validation rule on account. Okay, so we will create a validation that, okay, so I'll just click on new, and let's say I'll give a demo validation, something like this. I'll give a name. Okay, now here I will first check whether the permission, so you can see here permissions. Okay, and then you have a lot of other options as well, so you can check for permissions. Okay, so permissions will show you all the custom permission which you have created in your system. So I will select bypass validation and I'll do an insert. Okay, okay, and let's say name not equal to testing. Okay, So first thing is this particular permission, that is bypass validation rule. It will check whether the current logged in user is having this particular permission or not. Okay. So what basically we are doing is in this validation. First thing we are checking that if name is not equal to testing, okay, and second thing we are checking that I'll just put a note here, that if the logged in user is not having this particular custom permission for bypassing the validation, then this validation rule will fire. Okay, validation occurred. Okay, and then I can click on save. Now we have bypass validation which is being checked in the validation rule, but how to use it? Okay, so for using it, we can go to profiles, and then let's say we can select any profile on which you want to apply this custom permission, so that all the users who are using this particular profile will automatically get this custom permission. Okay, so if any, so let's say I'll again just open, let's say HR profile I'll open, and then here you will have an option called custom permissions. So you can select on custom permission, and then you can add whatever custom permission you want to enable for this particular profile. Okay, now all the users who are having HR profile, okay, if they will log in into system, and let's say if they try to create an account, okay, in that case system will check whether the logged in user is having this particular custom permission or not. As per configuration it is having. Okay, then in that case it will bypass the validation rule. Okay, and similarly if it is not present, then it will go for the validation rule. So this is how we enable custom permission on a profile, same way we do on a permission set as well. Okay, now what is the use case here? Okay, so you have seen our validation rule where we are checking for bypass validation. Okay, now if you want to bypass this particular validation for let's say 10 profiles or 15 profiles, then you don't need to come here and give the profile name one by one. Instead you can go on those profiles and just add this custom permission. Okay, so this is the beauty of using the custom permissions in Salesforce, where you can efficiently manage your validations and you can efficiently provide the users a possibility, or you can say a capability to bypass or to be a part of that process. Okay, so this is how we check the custom permissions in the validation rules or in the standard process. But let's say you have some Apex class, you have some piece of code, okay, which you want to execute only for those particular permissions or those particular users who are having this custom permission, that is, let's say bypass validation in our case. Okay, then how to do that? So for that, we have something called feature management class in Salesforce. Okay, so by using that feature management class, so there is a method in feature management class called check permission. Okay, so you can use a syntax like how you are seeing here, that feature management dot check permission, and then you can use your custom permission API name, so that system will check whether the logged in user is having this particular permission enabled or not. Okay, and based on that it will return a boolean, that whether the custom permission is present or not. Okay, and then by using that boolean you can execute your Apex code, or you can configure your Apex code to run or not to run for that particular user. Okay, so this is how you can use this in Apex as well. So this is an overview of what custom permissions are, what custom permissions can do. So this is uh, the example which I showed, that is only for validation rule, but you can use it in multiple places. You can use it in your classes, you can use it in your triggers, you can use it in your other configuration items. So custom permission is, I would say, a very easy to maintain stuff. So with this, we will wrap up our video. Thanks for your time, and I hope you find this session informative. So please do subscribe to my channel, and more videos are coming soon. So thank you. Thanks for your time.